Good evening, everybody. False alarm. So we're back. We're back for another episode of Mental Moments. We are just so elated that you are joining us this evening. So Malara, how are you?
I'm doing well, actually. I would say I've been feeling like I've been drowning. I've told people over the last couple of weeks, it is not worth being that person that is constantly there for everybody and then risk your purpose because you're empty and you can't do it. So over the last few weeks, I've literally been in a space of like, all right, God, what do you want for me to do next? And he's pivoting some things, and it's not going to be comfortable, but
Right.
it's definitely working out for my good. So I'm in that space. I'm in a space of gratitude. Like, all right, God, whatever you got, I'm here for it.
And we talked about that on last week about setting those boundaries, and how when we say no, it's okay to say no and we shouldn't feel bad about it. I saw Tiffany Haddish on a show. Um, I think she was on the Breakfast Club, and she was talking about how she first of all she said she stopped drinking. She's like, I stopped drinking because I was just saying yes when I was drinking and everything. So she said she realized that she had to reestablish her boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what it's all about with your mental stability is reestablishing. And sometimes we have to tweak it every now and then, just like we have to tweak our business plan or our dreams and our visions. Sometimes we got to tweak some things. We have to tweak
Yeah.
it and say, okay, you know what, God, I need to be more intentional about the things that I am involving myself in. And
And
it
we
makes
can't be afraid to pivot either. Like we make these goals and plans, and we attach failure to pivoting. Like we feel like because I didn't accomplish what I said I was going to accomplish, the people on the outside looking in, I didn't told them my goals, dreams, and aspirations, and made my little Facebook post, and I was going hard. But what I've learned in this season is whether I continue to be a full-time entrepreneur or I go back into the workplace, I can use my example. I'm still living out my purpose.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just a different vehicle. So what I would tell anybody out there, you're trying to set boundaries, it's okay to pivot. It don't mean you fail. The only time you fail is when you stop moving. And procrastination is a byproduct of perfectionism. So if you want things to be perfect or you want your vision to be executed exactly the way you wrote it, I serve a God whose vision is greater than mine. So even if
Absolutely.
it doesn't look the way that I thought it was going to look, if I actually sit back and look over my life, it looks so much better than what I planned it to be. So it's okay to pivot.
That is so good. I really like that. You said when you look back over your life, that all of the detours that you had to take, like during the time we be fighting and script, kicking and fighting. Like God, I didn't say I want to go left. I said to the right. Did you not hear me?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's saying, look, this right here is the best plan for you. This is the path that I want you on, and it does not mean failure, y'all. So if you don't get nothing else from this show tonight, but you're gonna get a whole lot of good nuggets tonight. But if you don't get anything else, get that pivoting to the left or to the right or going straight doesn't mean failure. It means it's
Mm.
just another route to get to your destination. And it's all good. It's all good. So listen, y'all. We have a really good, and I say that every week, right? I say that
Yep.
every week. So first and foremost, those of you who are looking in that are joining us for this conversation, let's go over to our Instagram page. Hey, Melissa. Hey, girl, I see you. I see you. Hey, little Naya. Hey, Naya. I haven't seen you in a minute. Hey, mom. Hey, mom. Look, y'all. My dog is over there trying to get to my dinner over there. But hey, mom. Thank you for always joining and always supporting. So
And we
listen,
got some people in YouTube too, sis. We have Rouse Barber Lounge, and then we have Chief Apostle Dr. D.L. Wilson here as well. So I want to shout
hey.
out our YouTubers too. So thank y'all for joining in with us tonight.
Look, y'all, this is the reason why I have this young lady right here. Because she's young, number one. She's young. She's about 15, 20 years younger than me. However, she keeps me on my toes. She keeps me on my toes. A few moments ago, she said, Boo, Tosh, The intro is great, but we not live yet. Please press the button, okay? So I really, 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 really appreciate you, my life. I don't say that every other day or whatever. I'm telling you now, I appreciate the value that you add to my life, and everything that you stand for and believe in. And you remind me of myself, a younger version, or probably now version of myself, of just a flower child. Really, like we should have been hippies. We should have been back there in the Woodstock days, because that's really who we are. We can't tell you everything else, but
Nope.
that's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. So listen, y'all, we have an awesome guest tonight. Tonight we're talking about finding your voice as a mother, as an individual, finding your voice. Tonight our guest is Miss Danetta White, who is the founder of a nonprofit organization called Fight Inc., where her mission is to advocate for the victim, inspire the survivor, and educate families and communities. She has partnered up with domestic violence shelters as well as domestic violence advocates in the Hampton Road area and also in Ohio. Danetta has an annual event called This Is My Story, where in this space where survivors can share their stories and community leaders can give much needed information. And that's pretty much also what Malari is doing, because we got to integrate the church. We got to integrate the church along with the with people out here in the community. Her Danetta's goal is to be an inspiration to anyone who crosses her path. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this platform, Miss Danetta White. Goal is to be an inspiration to anyone. I hear a feedback. Do I hear feedback? Welcome to this platform. You may have to go on mute. Inspiration to anyone. I hear a. Do you have it on? Do you have it on another device, or is it just on that one?
I just
So we might have to do what we did before. So
You may have to come out and come back in.
for me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So we
Because
might have
it's a
to do what we did
feedback.
before.
So go out and come back in.
for me.
Mm-hmm.
So we might have to do what we did before. So go out and come back.
Okay.
There we go.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So listen, everybody. So I want to ask you a question. And this, hey, Ralph, first one here. Yes, you are. You were the first one here. We got a prize for you, maybe, perhaps, somewhat kind of like we got some nice candles for you, Ralph. So listen, guys and ladies that are joining. Has there ever been a time where you lost your voice? And what I mean by your voice is your thoughts, like who you were. Like sometimes when we become Mr. and Mrs., they say Mr. Harold, Mr. and Mrs. Harold Barnes. It's like, well, why didn't we say Mr. and Mrs. Harold and Shirley Barnes? Like, where in society did this transpire? So I want to ask you some questions, and I want y'all to be a live audience this evening. I need y'all to ask some questions. I know you have them out there. I know you have questions, so make sure you ask your questions. So now we're going to go back to Danetta. We're going to add her to the platform, and let's see whether or not. Can you hear us now? Ask your questions. So now we're going to go back to Danetta. We're going to add her to
It's still
the platform,
doing it,
and let's see whether
but
or
it's
not.
okay because I can catch
Can you
it.
hear us now? Okay. So what I probably will need to do is mute you. Probably will need to do is. Okay, so what will happen is I'll just have to unmute. When you want to speak, just unmute yourself, because when I mute you, it's gone. Okay. All right. So Danetta, I need for you to so we're talking about finding our voices. And so sometimes when we say finding your voice, we're not just talking about finding the right words to express yourself, but we're talking about going into your inner self and your power that's within you, and allowing the world to see that power that's within you, that authentic you. And sometimes when we get involved in relationships, when we get involved in relationships with our family, our friends, our significant others, and we get engrossed with our children, we lose our voices. We lose our voices so many times. Even when mothers and fathers that are out there now, that kids are going off to college, and you're like, you look at each other like, well, who are you? Because we've been running to soccer practice, we've been running to dance rehearsal, things of that nature. And then when you look up, you're different people at that point, and you're saying, okay, who am I now that the kids are gone? So Danetta is on tonight because she's going to talk to us about finding her voice. So Danetta, could you share a little bit of your story with us? I'm going to go on mute. Danetta, could you share a little bit
everyone.
of your
So
story with us? I'm going to go on mute.
Here's a little of my story.
Danetta, could you share a little bit of your story with us?
And I actually lost my voice in my marriage, to be honest with you. Growing up in the church.
Hold on one second, Danetta. For whatever reason, so we may have to mute you real quick. Okay, so what it's sounding like, I don't know if it's your speaker or if you're like sometimes if you have like an iMac and an iPhone, it'll connect to your phone or something, but something has the sound going kind of like in a recorder. So like everything you're saying and we're saying is like repeating itself, and we can't really hear you, and I want them to be able to hear your message. So maybe we can try one more time, you going out and coming back in, because even with you being unmuted, it's still repeating the words that you're saying too. And thank you guys so much for your patience. We are going to get this to work.
I don't know what just happened. Oh, it just did it again. But I was going to say, I don't know what just happened, but I didn't hear it this time. I don't know what just happened. Oh, it just did it again. But I was going to say, I don't know what just happened, but I didn't hear it this
time. Awesome. We are going to get this to work tonight for sure. And we appreciate all of you guys who are watching live tonight with us. We had a few more people join in on YouTube. We have Corey Charles. We also have Craig and all. And then Yolanda Wood. So we want to say thank y'all so much for joining in on tonight. Again, the discussion that we're having is finding your voice, and not necessarily just speaking up. But so many of us wear masks unintentionally. We go into autopilot. Like I get people ask on my, like, for a while, Malara, how did you get through this PhD program? And it like boils my boils my blood, because I honestly can't tell you. Like I went into autopilot mode, and it's kind of like, well, what happened that made you go on autopilot mode? Like what things did you miss out on? Like what could you do? Like how can you become more present? So that is what we're talking about tonight as we allow our guests to join back in with us shortly.
All right, y'all, I figured it out.
Okay, there we go.
So anyway, I'm sorry, y'all, I'm back. But was it?
Hold on, Tasha, you're muted. We couldn't hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, so please share a little bit of your story with us, as much as you want to share.
Okay. I was in a marriage 12 years, and honestly, that's a space where I lost my voice. You know, growing up in the church, we're taught submission wrong, unfortunately, in some cases. And some people think submission is control. And in my situation, unfortunately, I experienced some physical as well as emotional and financial abuse. And in that, because of that mentality of being submissive, it's like, okay, I don't want to lose my marriage. I know this is not the best. And to be honest with you, in the beginning stages, I did not realize what it was. I just understood submission as it was taught. But I didn't really understand what was happening to me until, you know, some years later, I was having a conversation with somebody, and she asked me if I was going somewhere, and I was like, well, I have to talk. If I was going to do something, I was like, well, I have to talk to my husband about this. And she was like, I don't understand. It was an older lady. She was like, why you got to talk to him about that? It was something as simple as get my hair done or something like that, and I was like, everything that I do, I had to run it past him because I thought what it was submission, and what I came to realize when my eyes started opening was that, I had come accustomed my movement was based off of what he wanted me to do. I didn't realize that I was shut off to a world, I was shut off to certain people, um, and then it wasn't until like that my eyes had started opening, and one of the missionaries, older missionaries, she told me, she said, Danetta, abuse is not of God because once again, we're taught divorce is not okay.
Right.
And so I didn't want a divorce or whatever. And so when she said that to me, my eyes really opened and I started paying attention to certain things. And that's when I started speaking up. And that's when I noticed how much of my voice I actually lost. And because I lost my voice, I was isolated.
So when you say, right, so when you say lost your voice, what does that look like? Like, what does that look like? Because when we say sometimes we're saying like our voice, like what you hear, but it's also in other areas of your life.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
so what would that look like?
Um, Losing your voice is like you're unable to express. And so the inability to express causes you to hold things in. And so you adjust because you can't talk about it, because you're condemned if you talk about it by the person who put that muzzle on your mouth. And
And it
so
is a muzzle.
it is definitely a muzzle. And, people don't understand. And, I got the questions, well, why don't you just leave? Or why don't, like, it's tough because now my mouth has been muzzled so much. I don't even know how to express what's happening. I don't know how to express how I feel. Like I can't articulate that this is happening. I can't articulate that my heart is bleeding. I don't know how to articulate because now here's the thing. We're conditioned not to make that person look bad.
That is the major thing in churches. You'll go to counseling and they'll say, well, can't you work it out? Instead of saying, can I find a shelter for you to go to or a home for you to go into? Have you been injured? What can we do? What about the children?
Yeah. And that's why one of my goals, honestly, you guys, is to educate churches, because to be honest with you, that's the only response they know. Because if you look at generations before us, they went through some of the same stuff some of us went through, but because of what we're taught as far as submission, no divorce or whatever. And I told God, I don't want to be married 20, 25 years and then he get it straight. And I'm like, I've been abused for 20, 25 years. And now because at that point, I'm so damaged, I can't even enjoy the good part of him. So go ahead and let me go. Let him, get delivered and free from whatever he's got going on. But then let me have my space to heal. And so, yeah, we unfortunately, there's our generation before us. They stayed in those situations and then they carried that on to our generation and taught us to do the same thing. And so they didn't have a voice. They taught us how not to have a voice. But thank God I found mine.
Absolutely. Malara?
And so I'm going to share my thoughts after a commercial break so that we can make sure that we come back. But I definitely think I have something to add
I know you
to this
do.
conversation.
That's why I called your name. Okay. So everybody, we're going to go to a quick commercial break and we will be right back.
M Green Enterprises is proud to present you with an event that is one of a kind, the I'm Enough Renewal of the Mind Conference. In the words of our fantastic host, Miss Talita Hill Riddick, we are looking for psychology and theology to be married and not engaged. This event aims to bring together mental health professionals, advocates, spiritual leaders in the community to raise awareness, promote understanding, and provide practical tools for addressing mental health challenges through a spiritual lens. Are you ready to create harmony among your mind, body, and soul? This is an event for you. Grab your ticket now at www.malaratransforms.com. We see you there.
Everybody, that is my girl, my co-host right there, Malara Green's conference. We want you to attend. If you are in, so look, this is the first prize or gift for tonight for any mother or anybody. We are celebrating Mother's Day. Mother's Day tonight as well. But if you know that you will be in the Virginia area, I think, is that Chesapeake, Virginia?
It's Portsmouth. So if you're in the Virginia area, I know it is Memorial Day weekend, but what better way to create new memories by combining your mind, body, and spirit? So if you are in the Hampton Roads area and you are a mom tonight and you would like to go, just say that one mom, just say hi. And whoever we see first from Instagram or YouTube, we would love to gift you with a ticket to the conference. It is on May the 25th at Grove Church, VA, where we are bringing mind, body, and spirit together. So, yes, that's what we'll be doing.
Okay, so we're looking, and so I'm pretty sure Malara will let us know whoever does that. I'm looking over Instagram. I don't see yet. Hey, Shabise. Hey, Derek. Hey, everybody. So again, so we're back and we're talking with Danetta White, and she's talking about finding her voice, being in an abusive marriage for many years, and she had to pivot, and she was able to discover that she had no voice. That she was operating without a voice, and she was able to find her voice. So we're speaking with her this evening. So Malara, what would you like to share?
So I would say, yeah, so I would say for me, and what would have been 10 years of marriage, I don't think that I necessarily lost my voice in the marriage. I went into the marriage not having a voice, which was different.
Wow.
So when I said I do, and I remember telling my ex this recently, I said I do because I did not believe that I was worthy enough of someone else ever seeing me in the lens of a wife. So, he was a licensed and ordained minister. So he was in church, and I was like, okay, this is perfect. God, I asked for a godly man, and he, sending me Bible verses. I couldn't do anything fun until I told him where a certain character in the Bible was. Like, for me, that was exciting. But because I didn't know my value and my worth, I said yes, not even thinking about any of the other stuff. So for 10 years, I went into autopilot. I went into mothering. I went into nurturing. I went into what I thought marriage should have been, where, a wife is a ride or die. I went into where a lot of the things that I experienced, nobody knew I was experiencing it because, kind of like our guest said, I wanted to make sure I kept his image. So then when I did finally get asked for a divorce, which he asked me back in October, and I think in December, I kind of had enough because I was getting feedback from, let's just say, his friends. Then people was like, Malara, why are you talking about him? I said, I'm not talking about him. Y'all just didn't know for 10 years this has been my life. Because I hid it. I shielded it. So what I would tell anybody, whether you lose your voice in the marriage or before, is sitting back and learning how to find it again. So it's easy to be like, dang, I lost my voice. Woe is me. Like, what? No, like, be honest. When did you lose it and why? I lost it because I didn't see me as a child of God. I lost it because I didn't see myself valuable. I lost it because I didn't see that there would be another man out there that would love me for who I am. So I settled for what came to me in the moment that I needed it. And it doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't make my ex a bad person. We still co-parent, all those other things. But I had to be honest. The voice was lost before I even got into it.
And sometimes we don't take accountability for the part we played. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, I can speak for myself, sometimes you enable people. You enable people because of a deficiency that you may have, or inadequacy that you may feel, that you may have a need to be wanted, to be, to be appreciated. And then we overcompensate by continuously doing extra things when that's not being reciprocated. And it happens. It happens to the best of us. It happens to the best of us. Danetta, you were talking about financial, and I hadn't heard that one in a while. Financial abuse. Malira, could you elaborate on that from a clinical standpoint?
So from a clinical standpoint, what I would say financial abuse is when you don't have security in making your own choices financially. For some people, they feel like that means this person is taking my money or they're bamboozling me. But it can look like kind of what she said. I need to get my hair done, but I need to go ask my husband. For what, boo? Like, you can go get your hair done? Like, what? So when we're talking about financial abuse, what we're talking about when I don't feel comfort to manage my own things. And then another piece of it is when the other person start to lie about how they manage the money. For
Or
me,
they don't allow you any money. They give you
yep.
like an allowance, like you one of the kids.
Yep. So it's kind of like it happens in different ways. Well, I'll tell anybody, and I've said this before, if you have more questions than answers about something, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
So when I began to question, like, dang, I can't go out with my girls. I can't get my hair done. What you mean I got to have an allowance? Oh, well, you got to check behind me every time. Or when random money is coming out and I'm asking you, yo, babe, where that Cash App going? Like, what's happening? Like, it's those little small things. So when you begin to have more questions and answers about your financial stability with your partner, whatever setup y'all have, like for me, I do everything. What's yours is mine, mine is yours. Like, that's my mentality. So if we have a joint account and I'm looking at this account and I'm starting to ask you, like, why this $150 going? I ain't got my hair and my nails done. Like, what's going on? That's when it starts to become abusive. When I can't even manage what we've established to be our thing. That's what I would define it as.
Absolutely. Danetta, did you have anything to share regarding the financial side to that? Because sometimes, well, not sometimes, but all the time, when your spouse is holding on to the money or rationing it out, like I'm your parent, that's a form of control. And most people that are abusive, they want to control every single aspect of your life. Like it's almost like taking you back to childhood.
Oh yeah. So mine, like, because honestly, that's the thing. That's with the whole situation. It just takes you back to childhood, and mine's looked a little different because he didn't necessarily control the finances per se. What he would do was spend on what he wanted to spend and everything else. Now he took care of the rent and some of the bills. I had my responsibilities or whatever, but then all of the extra stuff he wanted to do, he did. My money went to the food. 5 kids, feeding 5 kids, 7 total in the household, taking care of everything else. And so when I wanted something extra, I could not. And if I said something, it was a problem. And I'll give you an example. I remember, um, because we had so many kids, we'll get huge tax returns. Yes, right. So the agreement was to split the money. But I remember one year he got everything he wanted. And then I needed a car. So he was driving this nice car and he went and got me this little hoopty that was making a whole bunch of noise. And then I had probably like $500 left. Now, when I say we had a sizable, like we're talking about thousands,
Right.
$500 left, and with that $500, I had to spend it on the children, which I'll never regret having to spend on the children. But the problem is, you're living your best life, and I'm looking homely, and I'm doing this and taking care of kids, and not just our kids, but kids that I didn't birth.
Right.
Let me add that. And I never regret my kids. They're probably watching. I love my kids and they'll attest to this or whatever.
Right.
I treat them and still treat them as my own. So I've come into a marriage with 5 children, but then I had to consume myself with what they need. And he took advantage of that. They knew not to go ask him. They knew to come ask me because they knew it wasn't coming from them. And so if I had a penny in my pocket, that penny went to them because I knew. But then not only to them, but to him, because he would spend his money and say, "Well, I need gas to get to work." You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that part of it too. So I conditioned my mind to just put this little money aside because I know he coming to ask me for a couple of dollars, even though he got this equipment over here that's thousands of dollars, and I have nothing. Absolutely, positively
And
nothing.
that's what you mean by losing your voice, because I'm pretty sure ladies up here or guys up here tonight were like, well, why didn't you just tell them I ain't have it? I just didn't have it. I don't have it to give, because you didn't want to hear anything else.
Yeah.
That
And
part.
Tasha, we gotta understand, like, if we, and I say this all the time, if you
Yeah.
love yourself 90%, and that person come in loving you 91%, and it don't mean that they love you in the same areas that you love yourself,
Yeah.
but because it's a smidge more, we're willing to ignore the red flags. We're willing to do what we need to do to not have a blow up, especially when you have children. As mothers, we try to do whatever we can so that our kids don't
Be
get
protected.
impacted, by what we're experiencing. So sometimes you can lose your voice with that too, because it's like, is it even worth the fight? Like, I remember I used to ask those questions. Like, is it even worth me sitting here having this conversation about whatever has come up? But it's a space of, do we actually do a disservice for our children, not seeing those moments where we do speak up or not speak up, and not just financially, but just in general. Like, I know some people, it may not be financial, it could just be time. You may have somebody in that marriage where one spouse is always home with the kids and the other spouse is out there, like she said, kind of living their best life, whether that's gigging, playing ball, or, for females going out and being with their girls, whatever it is. But again, it's finding that ability to be okay to say no. And we talked about that last week. Like, why is it so hard to say no when it comes to certain people and certain things?
Well, I want to
Absolutely.
say this.
Yes.
Something you said, kind of backtracking about even understanding your value. I'm gonna say this: when I went into my marriage, I had confidence. I wasn't arrogant. I had confidence, and in my situation, my voice was silenced because of what I was taught. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a whole shock when stuff switched after the I do.
Yeah.
Right. And so immediately, like at first in the beginning, I would rah, 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 like, what's your problem? But as time went on, what I was taught is what caused me to hush. And so it's almost like taking a chisel and just slowly
Chipping
nipping
away.
away. And so the thing is, I started with confidence, but because of holding to incorrect teachings,
Mm-hmm.
on to what previous generations had taught me, um, I, lost my voice, lost my confidence. And so I can honestly say that I did start out confident.
He's like, I started out strong, but somewhere along the way, I lost my way.
Eventually, it was, Danetta, you got to be submissive to your husband.
That's the thing.
But do you
They be
want to
like,
know where that comes from, though? Like, so this is where I'm gonna put my nerd hat on, just
Okay.
for a second. Just go with
mm-hmm,
me.
mm-hmm.
So when it comes to the church, and this is why I work a lot with the church now, is a lot of what we do in the Black church really do stem from slavery and post-slavery mainly.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, we were never taught how to be a family. We were taught how to be supporters, Meaning, if the master's wife was pregnant, he would go rape the black slave to get her pregnant so she can be a wet mom. What did that mean? I'm going to make you nurse my child and I'm going to send your child somewhere else.
Yep.
Then when I see that you get married, then I'm going to rape your husband in front of you. Like, it was so many breakdowns of family.
Yeah.
So then once slavery ended and black folks was finally able to be family, Big Mama, Big Daddy and them was like, I don't care if Papa's a Rolling Stone. We're going to keep this family together, which is what happens in this house stays in this house.
Stays in this house, yes.
Right? So when we're talking about divorce rates are high and all that thing, it's high because grandma knew that he was doing something with Aunt Susie down the street and got 5 other kids by her. But as long as don't nobody know and we hush, we are right.
Yeah.
But then when we have our generation that's like, yo, no, I'm not taking this. I don't like that. I don't like how this feel. Oh, no, girl, just be submissive.
She won't be as submissive for ourselves. We started reading the Bible for ourselves. So now the churchgoers now, we're just, because back in the day, it was people couldn't read. They couldn't read or write. So therefore, it was just like whatever the preacher said, because he could read. Yep. Then we're just going to go with that. We don't need to search the Bible for ourselves. And so now the churchgoers that we have now, and even those that are not in the church, but still are living, were taught to live that submissive type life, they're looking through the Bible like, yeah, but it's saying the husband should submit himself also to the wife.
And it's only because as a people, we're naturally protectors and nurturers, whether you are male or female. As African Americans, we are naturally protective. So if I can find any loophole to not get my family to be separated and broke down, and I can put a scripture behind it, baby, let's do it. But what ends up happening is we are teaching people to stay in relationships, to stay in situations that are unhealthy. Earlier today, I was talking to, matter of fact, it was last night, I was talking to my professor, because I'm in transition, but something he said really resonated with me. And he was like, God knows about your debt. God knows about your challenges. God knows about those moments. So in the moments where you need to pivot and do something different, God already knows about it. Right. We're not taught that though. We're taught stick in there. We're taught that's where those scriptures come in at. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. He's working all things out for your good, baby. Yeah, he hit you. It's okay. God working it out.
Right.
God just ain't in the fact that he just hit you. About it. You know, and I shared a post recently on Facebook where they were saying how we're so quick to tell people somebody can literally be in the lake drowning, and we'll tell them just pray to God, God will save you. Mm-hmm. And the person that's saying just pray to God, God will save you, they an Olympic swimmer, but they're sitting on the sideline saying just pray about it, just pray about it. That's how we lose our voice when we want to throw it to God. And God is like, I'm waiting on y'all. I gave you the
don't want to do the hard work. Mm-hmm. So because we don't want to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, okay, Tosh, okay, what are you doing? Instead, we'll say, well, God, can you fix this? And God has already equipped you or given you everything that you needed to fix it. But because that's not the answer we wanted to hear, we just going back again like, God, I guess he didn't hear me this time. But he's giving you the answers that you've needed, and then you just wasn't ready. And sometimes we're just not ready. And you know how we can talk to our girlfriends all day long. I know for myself, it was one particular time I was talking to my girlfriend. I was just like, yeah, this happened, that happened, this happened, that happened. And I listened to myself. I was like, while I'm talking, I said to myself, Tosh, if you tired of hearing this, I know they tired. Like, you need to get it together. Stop talking about it and be about it. And sometimes we have to face those harsh realities or have those stern talks to ourselves to just get it together. Like, come on now, what are you doing now? Like get it together. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's why now let's put the responsibility back on this, right?
That's right.
So we understand what they taught us. Mm-hmm. But we're still held accountable for reading the word ourselves.
That's right.
Yeah.
The words that study to show yourself approved, right? So Although, and that's why I will never be bitter or upset at the generations before, although,
That's right.
some of what they taught us was wrong,
Incorrect.
unfortunately.
Hmm.
But I still have to be accountable for myself. So yes, I held on what I was taught, but I should have, if I was in my word a little bit more, if I took that time, sometimes in our culture we can be lazy.
Oh yeah.
If I'm going to church every Sunday or going to Bible study, every Wednesday, Thursday, whenever you have Bible study or whatever, um, we lean on what is told to us because we trust the voice that is feeding us the information. And let's be honest, sometimes we may not go back and read and study and break down. And that's why I appreciate, Bishop Thomas, God rest his soul. The one thing he used to tell us is go back and read it. It's in there. But
Ooh.
sometimes in our culture, we'll ride the wave. They said, we like, boom, this is what he said. And because we trust the voice. So we also have to take responsibility for our part in that.
Absolutely. So we're going to take another commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about when you actually made the decision to leave. Like, what were you afraid? And of course, we're going to also talk about how all of our, or 90 some percent of our decisions that we make in our families, especially for women, is we do it with the thought, with our kids in mind. Like we don't want to leave because we don't want the kids to suffer, but we
Right.
stay and we die a silent and slow death inside it, an emotional death, and sometimes a physical death, because we're trying to hang in there for our family and for our kids. So we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back with that.
New Wave Capital Suites is a premium styling lounge now conveniently located in Boxyard RTP. Whether you're stopping in for a fresh fade or a shampoo or a facial, our goal is to provide RTP with a space to relax, refresh, and redefine yourself. Welcome to the Capital.
We are back. So Danetta, when you finally said to yourself, okay, this is what I gotta do, what was going on in your head?
It was a process. It was almost a year-long process. So what I did was when I got fed up, the first thing I did was I got my own bank account. So I
Wow.
started slowly separating things because it's a process. You're still battling, you need to get out. But then on the other end, how am I going to survive? Right? So what I did was I just slowly started separating certain things. I started doing more. And, a lot of it was church. I stayed in church whenever the doors was open. Boom, you need me to do worship? Got you. I'll do it. You need me to pray? Got you. I'll do it. Like, so anything that I could find to do, um, I did it. And honestly, what pushed it was, he bought a house. And I told God I didn't want to be in this by the end of the year. And I told him I would live in a cardboard box on the street before I moved in the house with you.
Right.
I finally, like, I could not see myself going through that continuously. Like, I've done it enough. And so that's how I did it. I just did it slowly. Yes, I was told I couldn't survive without him, but I was like, I'd rather be homeless than be hurt again. And
Right.
so that's what
So
happened.
how did the children play a part in that? Like, making the decision, because I know, like, even for myself, it's just like, you're like, well, I don't want to, like, the kids may be at a certain age, like, oh, where they're getting ready to go to middle school, so that transition may be hard, so I need to, like, hang in there a little bit longer. Like, so what was the thought process with the children?
So because my story is a little bit different with my children. Um, their biological mom is still living, but she couldn't raise them. And, her and I had an understanding. And her and I had a great understanding. And so, because I was the active mom, that did make it hard for me because although their mother is living, their mother can't do the things that they need a mother to do because she's battling her stuff. You know what I'm saying? And not to put her stuff out there,
Right.
but their mother is sick, and so the thing is, she could not physically do the things that they needed to do, and so that was the biggest reason why I stayed because they weren't biologically mine. So the question was, if I leave, will you take my rights away from me? And so when I did leave, the baby, he's 18 now. He probably was 13. He was in junior high school. He was 13 years old. And he said, although it still affected my older kids, they
Mm-hmm.
understood, but it still affected them. But they had a clearer understanding because now they witnessed some of, especially one of my daughters, two of them, they witnessed a couple of situations. But with him, he made it even harder because he was just like, Mom, can you just please? And it broke my heart. But I told him, I said, listen, when stuff go crazy in this house, you call your siblings to come pick you up. I ain't got nobody to call. So listen, I'll get you up on the weekend or during the week when you want me or whatever. But I had to, stand up to. But it was easier because it was only one that I had to stand up to. Now the other kids, I will say, because I stayed with my two daughters, the two oldest ones, when I moved out, I actually was staying with them, and
Wow.
they supported. And to this very day, they support and tell me, Mom, when you tell your story, tell your story. Don't muffle it. Because if he wouldn't have done what he did, you wouldn't have a story to tell. And so, which gives me peace. But what I will say that sometimes I deal with, I look at how they were affected because they were still affected.
Yeah.
And that's
Even
why.
as much as we try to shield them from it, they see it or they feel it.
Exactly. And so they were truly affected. So sometimes I deal with that, but we have those open conversations about it because it was more or less if I had the security of knowing that I could still interact with my children because they'll tell people that's not my stepmom, that's my mom.
That's right.
And so if I had that security, I probably would have left sooner. But even with the youngest one, what I did was I called a judge that my pastor knew, and she told me I had rights as a step parent because I had him since he was 2. And so, had I known that information, I probably would have left. But yeah,
So Malara, tell us this. What is the effect of staying in a relationship that is not healthy for the sake of the children, and also the benefits and the drawbacks of leaving?
So I will say this, whether you stay for the children or you leave, either way, the children are going to be impacted. And I'm telling you that from an adult child that my parents waited until we were adults with our own families to get a divorce. And to this day, as an adult child, I still haven't been able to process it really because it still impacted. So whether you stay or you leave, everybody involved is going to be impacted because a divorce is like a death. You go through the same grieving process.
mm,
Yeah, it's a death
It
of
really
relationship.
it's a whole death. So what I will tell people is the impacts of staying is you do risk definitely losing your voice. You risk putting your life at risk, especially when there's abuse that's in the space. And that's why I'll tell anybody, and I'm a relationship therapist, sex therapist, but my first thing is if your safety is at risk, we're not talking about fixing this. I need
Mm,
to make sure you're safe first. So, I feel like when it comes to it, it's a question of your safety. It's a question of your sanity. Like, how are you actually mentally feeling right now? Because the kids can feel that. They can feel it.
Yeah.
And even for me, I wasn't the one that chose to get a divorce. I'm grateful that that decision was made for me. But on the other side of it, my daughter's taking it really hard. And as a mom and as a therapist, it's hard for me because I'm like, I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do. Like you got the therapist of therapists in your house, and she's still angry. She still feels certain types of ways. But one thing I do is give her grace.
Yeah.
I'm going to therapy with her. I'm researching things. So what I would tell people is, if you know that that relationship is not healthy for you, staying kills your children. The example I love to give is
Yeah.
the footprints in the sand. As a mom, when I go to the beach and I go to the bathroom, I ask my kids at least for 5 minutes, who gotta go? They're like, I ain't gotta go. They going in and out of the water. Eventually, I'm like, well, bump y'all. I'm going to the bathroom. But then I always tell moms, if you never took the steps to the destination, what steps are your children going to be able to follow?
Yeah.
Wow.
So if I stay in this situation,
That's what we're teaching them.
I
Yeah.
am literally killing their purpose as I'm killing mine. Because I am the mothership. My children goes through me. They're not born to be in a space where I get to control them. No, I am the example of how they're supposed to live. So now, is my life post-divorce challenging? Absolutely.
Yes.
But now I get to show my daughter an example of what it looks like to be loved for real. I get
And
to
to be
give
in a
my
healthy
and
relationship.
be in a healthy relationship where she's not seeing her mom quiet herself. But I can go out here and be unapologetically who I am. She wouldn't have solved that when it comes to her dad. But one thing that I do tell people, I don't have to bash their father either.
Right.
Exactly.
And all the years weren't terrible. How about that? All the
They
years
won't.
weren't terrible. So
Yeah.
that's what I say. All the you don't call me if you want a pity party, if you want to talk bad about my relationship. Don't call me for that, because I'm not gonna do that, because every year was not terrible. It just wasn't. But there are some non-negotiables that you just not going to negotiate on. And when you do find your voice, you can't hush it. And that's the thing, Danetta, when you was talking about, perhaps, because sometimes we say, had I known this, had I known that. But I am a firm believer that everything happens in the right timing. You may, if you knew that 5 years ago, you would have left, but you might have left. You might have felt like you could leave, but you could have gone right back because you wasn't strong enough, or you may not have had enough.
Wasn't ready. Yeah.
Wasn't ready. So whenever you choose to speak up for yourself, whenever you choose you, it's when you choose you. And I used to tell people used to say, well, how long you gonna grieve?
Grieving don't stop. I tell people all the time, it's not a stopping period. You grieve until you die. The only thing is how I cope with it today.
Yes.
And how I feel. But there's this space of what I will tell anybody, especially when we're trying to bring faith into the mix as well, as I say that self-care is not selfish, it's worship.
Yeah.
If I'm a creation of the Most High, I have to make decisions to make sure that I take care of myself. It's the same thing when we're talking about boundaries. Yeah. When I go to a museum, there's certain things that is either encased in a glass, or they may have the little red rope, and you bet not touch it. Now, I don't know what's wrong with my boyfriend. He do be touching the stuff. Yeah. But when you do that, the reason why that happens is because I need to make sure that I cherish the creation of me enough that I'm showing God that I worship him through how I treat myself. I can't do nothing else. I can't be a great mother. I can't be a great spouse. I can't be a great worker if I don't first cherish the creation of me. I'm a masterpiece trying to masterpiece. When we really understand that, we'll start to treat our self-care a little differently. A lot of the times we don't say no because we don't see our value and our worth. And we have to start doing that. And I think that would eliminate from so many people staying in situations, not even just relationships. This can be staying on a job you know is not good for you. Yeah. To continue to be a business owner when you know that business ain't working out. Staying in that relationship, whatever your thing is that you need to let go. I'm here to tell you, when you start to reverence the beauty of who you are, your no's are going to be even more magical than your yeses.
Someone said, beautiful point made thus far. Beautiful. Staying the same does not fix what you want to change. Changes things. That is so true. That is so true. What we're going to do, we're going to take another quick commercial break, and then we're going to go in and we're going to talk about, for the last 5 or so minutes, talk about being a mother and Mother's Day, and how you feel about, like, the parents, the mothers that didn't necessarily birth the child, but are raising children. So we'll be right back.
Malik is in the hospital. He got admitted last night.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I'm Dr. Naomi Samuels. I'm Malik's sister. Why is he here?
Malik is getting the best care possible.
Naomi, you really got to get a handle on your anger issues.
Something is not in my life, Trey.
But I'm about to figure it out.
Maybe you need to check yourself.
The four of you have always been there for each other, even when you had your differences.
Sometimes God allows minor setbacks for major comebacks. Trust me, it's all gonna work out.
Everyone expects me to show up for them. But who the hell is gonna show up for me?
We are family, and family sticks together.
If you haven't done so already, please go out to BET Plus. I don't know how I'm talking this. BET Plus, download BET Plus to download and view that movie. We're going to bring Danetta back onto the platform. Someone else stated, we could not talk about this when we were growing up and went through it with our parents. We really did. We went through these things with our parents, and they said what, like Malara said earlier, what goes on this house stays in this house. So now we want to talk about, shift the gears a little bit, and talk about motherhood, and Mother's Day, and how sometimes as step parents, we feel a certain kind of way. Like, we love our bonus children. However, it's still a sense of, they may have a sense of longing to give birth to their own children. So how do you weather Mother's Day, Danetta?
Honestly, my kids make it easy, to be honest with you. They make sure they take the time to pamper, especially after the divorce. They go the extra mile, but they do stay on me like, Mom, we need you to hurry up and get married because we need a little brother and sister, whatever. And so I will honestly say that they make it really easy. You know, I have my moments because I do want a kid, but to have that support from the ones that I've raised that I did not actually birth, to say, hey, you can do it. Don't worry. Listen, we need you to do this. It's encouraging. It's so encouraging. And so, you know, even in those hard moments, I have them to say, Mom, it's okay. It's going to happen.
And doesn't it make you feel good to know that you have the support of your children, and to know that the impact, even though you lived in that environment, in that situation, but you still made such a huge impact, a positive impact in their lives, so much so that they're willing to circle back and be like, Mom, we want to make sure that you're okay. They allowed you to stay. I just think that's just like a wonderful thing when your kids can come back and be your support.
It's definitely a blessing to hear them come back and say, Mom, you taught us this, we understand this, or Mom, we don't know where we would be if we didn't have you. Those things are refreshing. So even when I have those moments, I have those times that I can think about how they encourage and how they pour into me to keep me uplifted.
Yeah, it makes a difference. Someone else said, how long we wear the mask. Wow. Thanks for unveiling. Many will benefit from your sharing. You've opened doors. Thank you.
Wow.
That was beautiful. And for real, that is Malara and I plight every single day we wake up in the morning. Our desire is for people to live a fulfilled and a whole and healthy life, inside and out. And it takes a village. Like sometimes we want to seclude ourselves, especially when we are in relationships that is prohibiting us, or we don't want people to see what's really going on. We kind of isolate ourselves, and the village that was there in the beginning to help us is no longer there because we've moved away. So Malara, can you speak quickly to the isolation, and then here we are again in another hour. So Malara, if you could speak to that, and then I guess we're gonna have to shut down until next week.
Absolutely. I would just tell anybody, whether you are a mother, just a regular family member, if you're by yourself, isolation works only for a period. But we're all like cell phones. We can only do 80% of this life by ourselves. When the cell phone gets to 20%, you get this energy save mode of cancel. You push cancel, you might as well have plugged it in already. You need people to help you get back to 100. That doesn't mean you need everybody. It just means that you do need some people to support. And then ask yourself, why am I isolating? I'm going to be the first one to tell you, I'm a therapist with a therapist, a life coach with a life coach, because there are days where I don't want to get out of bed. There are days where I don't want to talk to people, and I'm a people person. But ask yourself, why am I isolating? Am I isolating to fill my cup, or am I isolating to hide the fact that I'm not okay? And one thing that we say on this platform, it's okay to not be okay. It's just not okay to stay there. So I would just tell people, as we begin to isolate and things like that, just ask yourself the why to make sure it's being done for a healthy reason, so that you can tap back into those who actually do love you, because everyone deserves to live their best life.
You're absolutely right. I'm switching over here to Instagram, and my bonus daughter said, a bonus mother matters just as much. Where the biological mother lacks, the bonus mother compensates. Hey, Miss Blake, I see you've joined. And then she also states, the lack thereof does not have to be negative. It can just be what the other does not have to give. And that's the thing, is being okay. Like, being okay with what, like she said, 90%, 80%, being okay with what they have to offer, and what they may have to offer. If that's not to your liking, then you have the choice to change the course of your life. Yes, Malara.
So real quick, I promise you this is gonna be the last one. I'm gonna be quiet because it's time to go. Somebody gave me this analogy, and it was about relationships. They say, you got like the mini 8-ounce water bottles.
Yeah.
And you got the 16-ounce water bottle. And they said sometimes we get so frustrated because people say, I gave you my all. But if their all is only 8 ounces and you are a 16-ounce bottle, how can we be mad when they don't fill us up?
Right, that part.
And we got to get to the point that it's okay to have multiple 8 ounces that we can grab from to fill our cups.
Now, when you say that, some people may say, when you have multiple 8 ounces,
not cheating, y'all. I don't condone cheating. But what I'm saying is, okay, you can have your girlfriends. Like, I have a group of girls that I know, this person's going to fill my cup in this situation. This person's going to fill my cup in this situation. But I'm not mad when that homegirl can't do it for me. Or I'm not mad if my boyfriend can't do it for me, because I know that in this space, this is what I need. So I'm not condoning cheating. What I am condoning, though, is having a village of people that you know who to pull from based off of what you're facing.
Thank you so much, Malara. No, we're not talking about cheating, or and that's going to be another conversation, is all these different types of relationships. So when you go back out there into the dating world, it's not like it was back in the day, y'all. The guy, see you, he's a nice person, you smile and all that good stuff. And then they, share the number and all, ask for your number. It's not like that now. It's just a whole nother ball game out there. But we'll talk about that on another show, another episode of Mental Moments. But listen, everybody, I am so glad that you joined us this evening. I hope that in this conversation tonight that you were able to dissect some things and see whether or not if you've lost your voice. And I hope that we have given you some tools in ways in which you can find your voice. It's not easy. Everybody up here have gone through some transitions, have had to leap to the next pad. And it was not, and we can all vouch that it was not easy. It was like the hardest decision. I say to people, one of the hardest decisions to make was or the most difficult decision to make was to get married, because you're just like, oh my God, like this is forever. I do love them, but this is like forever, forever. And then the next decision is to get out of the relationship, because it's just like, this is what I thought we built together. And then it's like the fear of starting over. And the fear is real. We know that the fear is real, but we're saying that you're worth it. Just like I say this every week, you are worth the work. So you got to put your work in first, and you got to learn to respect yourself first. We always say you need to learn how to respect me, but are we respecting ourselves? And we're not respecting ourselves if we're allowing things to overstep our boundaries. So we hope that we have shared something with you this evening that you can carry on with you throughout this week and to the next week. And if by chance you ever need us for anything, do not hesitate to hit us in our inboxes. If you're in a situation where you are unsafe and you feel unsafe and you feel like you need assistance, please hit us up in our inboxes and we can direct you to the right people. Also, Danetta, we thank you for joining us this evening. We thank you for sharing your story. She will also be doing her My Story conference again next year. Do you already have the date in mind?
Well, it's going to be in October. Don't have a date, but it will be in Newport News this year.
Okay. And also, Malara, what is your conference is coming up?
Yeah, so it's the I'm Enough conference, is based off of the renewal of the mind. It's going to be at Grove Church, VA, May the 25th. I know it's Memorial Day weekend, but listen, it is so important for you to pour into yourself. So I hope to see you guys there.
We will see you next week. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Mental Moments. Have a good evening, everybody.